Warning. Warp core collapsed in 10 seconds.
I should really call Batman.
This is Batman.
Hey, Bats. It's Big Dog here. How you doing, man?
I cannot complain. How are you?
Doing okay. Listen, I promised you that I was going to call you when I did another Batman-related video. I'm doing a Batman Beyond video. Do you want to be a part of that?
What is Batman Beyond?
It's this cartoon about you in the future. Even though you're not Bruce Wayne, you're a teenager, and Bruce Wayne is helping the teenager.
Oh, that's a little weird, but okay. Unfortunately, I can't do it today. I'm busy with a case.
Oh, okay, no problem. I do have another one planned later on if you're interested.
Of course. Let me know. However, I do appreciate you calling me back and keeping your word.
Of course. It's the least I can do. All right, let's get on with the video. Batman Beyond is one of those cartoons that came out in the late 90s. That was one of a few cartoons that I watched when I was a kid. Now, the premise behind the Batman Beyond cartoon was the idea of Batman somewhat retiring and giving the reins to a quote-unquote random teenager named Terry McGinnis. Now, while the cartoon itself wasn't initially as popular as DC would have hoped, it did end up developing a cult following. Now, honestly, this is one of those cartoons that a lot of people, myself included, have been demanding that Warner Brothers and DC create a live-action movie for. And for some reason, we've been getting blue-balled for it for years, and I'm getting sick of it. So, I thought to myself, let me do another pitch, like I did for the Nightwing film. Let's pitch a live-action Batman Beyond film. All right? I think we can do this. We did it for Nightwing, let's do it for Batman Beyond. All right, let's move on to what characters should be in this film. Okay, before we get started, I do want to get some things out of the way. First things first, there will be a lot of differences from the Nightwing video. The thing with the Nightwing video is, while there is source material to go off of, a lot of the story is quote-unquote slightly original. With the Batman Beyond film, it's probably, my pitch is probably going to be something that is damn near one-to-one to the first two episodes of the cartoon, which, by the way, spoiler alerts for those two episodes. And yeah, for characters, I would say the two main characters will obviously be Terry McGinnis and Bruce Wayne himself. For supporting characters, we'll have his mom, his dad, his brother, Dana, his girlfriend, and some of the Joker gang. And for villains, it will be obviously Derek Powers and his cronies. And obviously his right-hand man, who Batman will fight at the end of the film. Spoilers again. But anyway, let's get started. To start the film off, we have what is essentially Bruce Wayne's last mission as Batman. And during this mission, we see he's using a fairly high-tech bat suit that we haven't seen him use before. Once Bruce gets inside, he makes quick work of the guards and the thugs, but we start to notice that his heart is starting to bother him. Possibly due to the high-tech bat suit, maybe due to his older age, we don't know just yet. But, speaking of which, he goes to free the hostage and gets blindsided by a thug, seen wielding a pretty blunt object. Now, when Bruce goes to attack the thug, he starts to hold his chest, as we believe, or at least from what it seems like, he's suffering from a heart attack. Not a fatal heart attack, but something that's bad enough to where he can barely move, and his vision starts to blur. And the thug, he takes advantage of this and starts beating the brakes off of Batman, to the point where it's almost hard to watch. And then, during this little beating that Batman gets, he does the unthinkable, and he pulls out a gun. Now, He doesn't exactly fire, or maybe we might have him fire in the movie, we don't know for certain. But this is enough to make the thug stop and say, wait, you don't have to do that. And then he drops the blunt object, runs out the door, and runs into the cops. Afterwards, Bruce realizes that, unfortunately, he broke one of his sacred rules and used a firearm. Sure, he didn't fire it per se, but it still haunts him to the fact that he had to resort to using one. To the point where he goes back to the Batcave, hangs up his new suit, and then he utters the famous phrase, Never again. Now, a little side note before we move on a little further to the introduction of Terry. I want to address something about this part of the film. It's going to be extremely heartbreaking. And to some people, that might not be a good thing, but for me, I would say that's kind of the point. We know Batman retiring is not a new concept, but for the context of the show, when it came out, this was a very, very, I would say, heartbreaking thing to see, because we all know Batman's eventually going to get old. But at the same time, we don't want him to get old. We don't want him to retire. We always want him to be Batman, because he's a superhero. Everybody wants to see the superhero not give up, even when the odds are stacked against him. But in this case, for Bruce, he can't do that. And he's starting to realize that. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the introduction of Terry McGinnis. We then cut to 20 years later. We are now in a more futuristic version of Gotham City, dubbed Neo-Gotham. We are then introduced to Terry, who is a high school student, kind of a hothead, and when we first meet him, he gets into a fight at school and unfortunately gets suspended. This causes him to then have an argument with his father, who had grounded him for getting suspended, and Terry being Terry, he went out anyway. He wishes he didn't, though, because once he does go out with his girlfriend Dana, unfortunately, the two are harassed by a gang imitating the Joker, one of Batman's most famous rogues. This leads him to try and defend her. He's able to beat them mostly well enough, but then tries to run, and it leads him to Wayne Manor, where an much older Bruce Wayne comes out and tells the punks, leave him alone and get off my property. This leads to a small scuffle. Bruce and Terry make quick work of the thugs, causing Bruce to need his medicine, which Terry helps him get to his medicine, and then, on accident, finds the Batcave and realizes that the man he just helped is Batman, or at least was Batman. Bruce wakes up, finds Terry in the Batcave, and demands that he leaves immediately, which he does, and goes home, and unfortunately for Terry, he finds that his father's been murdered. This leads him to find out that there's something afoot going on in Wayne Industries, which I forgot to mention, has been taken over by Derek Powers, the bad guy of the film. And you'll see why he's a bad guy. So Terry, thinking the cops won't help, goes to Bruce Wayne and says, listen, there's something going on, and I think my dad was onto it. I need your help. So Bruce reluctantly tries to help him, but Terry isn't happy with the help he's getting. So Terry decides to steal the Batsuit and go after Derek Powers himself. During Terry's initial run as Batman, Bruce calls him on his intercom, or not his intercom, his earpiece in his cowl, and demands that Terry returns the suit immediately. Terry refuses. Bruce tries to shut down the suit, but Terry convinces him to help him bring Derek Powers to justice, because as we found out a little earlier, Derek Powers is using Wayne Enterprises to create nerve gas, and highly lethal nerve gas at that. So, once again, albeit extremely reluctantly, Bruce decides to help Terry bring Derek Powers to justice. And in doing so, once Terry confronts Derek Powers, a fight ensues, and ironically, Derek Powers is actually exposed to the nerve gas that he was trying to peddle from Wayne Enterprises, causing him to eventually turn into a supervillain, or a powered supervillain, which we'll get teased later. But thankfully, Terry is able to stop the distribution of the nerve gas. And afterwards, after returning the suit, Terry gets a visit from Bruce Wayne. And Bruce once again offers him a job. Well, not once again, but Bruce kind of offers him a job, basically as like a chauffeur and a gopher and all that, but secretly employs him to become Neo Gotham's new Batman. And that is where the film ends. Now, before I end this video, you're probably wondering, why am I pitching a movie like this, and why is it so important to you? Well, like I mentioned before, one, this is a cartoon that I loved and watched as a kid, and two, because it's a different take on a classic superhero. Something we haven't really seen. Well, we've seen it before, but we've never really seen something like this done in live action before. And quite frankly, I feel like it would be one of those films that is extremely successful for DC Comics. Or not DC Comics, but Warner Brothers. But for some reason, they keep refusing to do it, and it's kind of annoying. But hey, maybe this video will change their minds. I doubt it, but hey, you never really know. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you change anything about what I've said about this film? Do you disagree with it being released? Do you agree with it being released? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman!